Hi there, Kevin Tharp here, and today what we're going to do is we're going to be walking through some analytics reports for the Mabel Tainter Theater here in Menominee, Wisconsin. I do some volunteer work for the marketing committee there, which includes looking at their website and analytics, that kind of thing. And so I've been tasked with looking at the questions of where does their traffic come from, and is that traffic affected by their advertising spend, whether it's in social media or print or whatever? So those are really broad questions. And so what we're going to do is we're going to dig in to some basic level analytics reports to start trying to get an understanding of their traffic. We're not going to go into a deep dive here because you can get lost in the bushes looking at this and that and the other thing. So we're going to really try and narrow it down and only focus on those two questions and maybe what are the factors to try and get that initial baseline understanding of what is their traffic and is it being affected by their spending. Now, I don't have enough information to answer the questions about is it being affected by their spending. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and look at patterns, and then I'll take those patterns to the marketing committee and we'll look at other data that's not available in the analytics to see if certain purchases, say on social media, is changing the traffic. So let's dig into it. What I've got here is a report. Let me make that a little bit bigger so that you can see it. Actually, it's a series of reports, about 15 reports that we're going to look at through the process of this to try and start to get our head around what's going on. So let me make that a little bit bigger so that you can see what is going on. And so we're going to start with the analytics, just the all traffic, all users report. Now, the specific date that we're looking at is August 18th till the 26th. That's the 28 days prior to the date that I pulled these reports. And you'll see that there is a series of traffics, a traffic pattern. It's not a clearly defined pattern, but there are some distinct peaks and valleys in this. So we want to start understanding why are those peaks and valleys there. Are they just natural cycles of the theater, or have they been affected in some way? So the first thing that we're going to look at is in that traffic, where is that traffic coming from? Because that's going to be one of the things that we start to understand. The second thing that I've done is look at the the day of the week, because I just wanted to see if these spikes were happening on specific days of the week, just get an understanding of what is the traffic there. And so you'll see that this is organized right now by the number of users that come in for each of these reports. And so you'll see that the Google reports or the Google organic searches are the number one area across the board. So they're getting more traffic on each day from the Google organic searches than they do from any other source. Now, so that's something coming in from a natural search from Google or an organic search from Google. The second is direct. And so we see that now a direct is if somebody has a website bookmarked, or if they are entering the URL directly into their browser. And we'll see that on several days, every day but Friday and Saturday, those are pretty consistent dates. We've got this one referral that's coming in on Tuesdays that sort of separates the direct, but for the most part, we're looking at direct traffic being between 80 and 135 users per week for the time period that we're looking, or per day for the time period that we're looking at. So no huge things standing out there. Then we get into the Facebook referral. We see that the first Facebook referral, so this would be somebody clicking on something in Facebook, whether it's an ad or an article or event, something like that. And so we see that Tuesday is a good day for that. and then the rest of the week falls in there. So they're getting decent amount of traffic from Facebook. And then we go into Bing, not much traffic coming from Bing. So most of their traffic is coming from Google Organic, Direct, and Facebook. So we'll go on to the next report now. So this one, we want to focus on the channels. So where are they coming from? Now in this one, what we wanted to do is we wanted to look at the pattern for the entire year. So there was a website launch around January 1st where a new website was thrown out there. So what I wanted to do is come in and look at the traffic for that entire period to see if there's any patterns that we can see, any changes, just sort of get the overall picture of where things are at. And again, I organized it by the channel and the day of the week. And again, we see that the first 7 are organic. The next ones are direct and social. So this is bearing out, and then we're getting some referrals. So we can dig into those and look later. But again, we're not going to start wandering too far into the leaves. But so I wanted to see, are there any days of the week that are stronger than others? So with the organic search, the first one is 4, so that's Thursdays. Same thing with direct. And social is Tuesdays, Fridays, and Thursdays. So you can start kind of seeing where are people coming from on what day. So it looks like Thursday's probably their most significant day when I'm looking at this. Now we could dig more into that by drilling down, but again, trying to limit this so that we don't go off in any rabbit trails, because there's a lot of rabbit trails and there's a lot of things to find when you're looking down there, and you can spend a lot of time. That comes later. So now what we're doing is we're looking at acquisition. Acquisition is, where did the traffic come from? So where did we get the users? Now, the first thing that I notice here is organic search is the majority, followed by direct, followed by social, followed by referral. Users have sort of a up and down kind of use through the system. Now, when we get to conversions, one of the things that we're looking at is we didn't have any goals set up inside of the Google Analytics until September 3rd. That's when I went in and I entered a goal of clicking on the link that goes to their tickets, because that's ultimately what we're really trying to find, is how many people are clicking on that link to go and buy tickets. Ideally, we would be able to follow it through that, but that's not in place yet, so that we're not able to see absolute conversions. But what we're able to see is that they started going to, we were able to start tracking them clicking on that link. So now you start getting into more metrics, more things to look at, and the picture starts getting more complex. So you really have to sort of spend time looking at analytics to start understanding what the patterns are. Again, organic is first, direct, social, and referral. And this is the relative amount of number of users that are coming in from those sources. Now, when we look at the behavior, the bounce rate is rather high. That's not completely unexpected, especially considering that, and with the bounce rate, you always have to think about the particular organization you're in and what's going on with them. So their tickets link actually goes to an external site. So they don't sell tickets on the site itself, but they go to an external site. So it may be a bounce rate is defined as somebody who comes to your site and leaves from the same page without having spent much time there. And so what we see is that these are relatively high numbers, but when you realize that going to their tickets site is going to be counted as a bounce. If all they do is go to the Mabel Tainter, they see the show that they want to get tickets to, and they click to go get those tickets, that's going to be counted as a bounce. So bounce is a really nuanced kind of statistic. You really have to understand what's going on in order to use that as a useful metric, because it's never exactly what it appears. So, and then we come into the goal one conversion rate. And so that goal one conversion is when they click on that link to the tickets site. So what we're seeing is that of the people who come from organic search, 52.8% of them are going on to that goal. Direct, 51.2%. So those are actually, those numbers look really good when you look at them in light of this goal conversion, that a significant proportion, about half of the people that come into the page through organic or direct search are going on to buy tickets. That's actually a really good sign. Then we look at social. Still, they've got a real high bounce rate, and compared to the direct and the organic, the goal conversion is quite a bit lower. And so the social's not as effective at getting the people to buy those tickets. They'll come and they'll look around and they'll leave. That's just the way that it is. That's the statistics. And then referral, again, we've got a high incidence of, actually the highest incidence of them going from wherever they're coming from and going to complete that goal, which is clicking on it. Now, I arbitrarily set a value of, when I was setting up this goal, just so that we could visualize what's going on here, I put a value of $20 per click, saying that if they click that ticket, then that meant that we were making $20. This is absolutely divorced from the real world, but it gave me a place to benchmark. We'll have the opportunity to adjust the value of that click on that goal as we go through. But for this first set of reports, we wanted to get something in there so that we could start understanding the value of those users. And again, there was nothing before September 2nd for us to look at it with those conversions. So that's an area that we can improve the visibility, is by setting up additional goals and putting better values on them. Again, like I've said, this gets to be really complicated when you start interworking the data with the organization. So you really have to have a lot of people that understand the organization and the analytics and how they work together. So the next one that I come into is channels. All users went back to just the 28 days before this. And so again, this is similar data to what we looked at before, organic, but it brings in the conversions here too. So same kind of numbers. Nothing really in this report that stands out as being anything different from the other reports that we've looked at. This is the same report, but adding the day of the week. So it separates what up here is just organic search into the source, the medium, and the day of the week, so that we can see within the time frame that we're looking at, the last 28 days, we're looking at what's going on. So what we wanted to do is track from a time in mid-August through when we next meet, to see if any of the social spend specifically that we were going to do on some shows to try and increase the traffic for those shows, if it was having any influence. And again, I don't have the data of when those spends were made, but again, we're starting to see patterns here. Monday is in the last 28 days, the day that had the highest amount of traffic. And that was, so during that time period, we had 279 people who came in from Google Organic on Monday. So 0 is Sunday, 1 is Monday, 2 is Tuesday, et cetera, through there. And so you'll see that All of these are fairly close, but if you were to say what day is stronger, you've got Monday, again, Friday, Thursday. Those days keep showing up in these reports. So one of the things that you can use that for is to start targeting when you want ads to drop so that people can come in. So what we would do is then we would go to, say, if we were looking at a Facebook spend, let's look at those Facebooks. And so, and we actually, I would go in and create a different report, but there's the first referral is coming in on a Tuesday, Sunday, Wednesday, Monday. So within this time period, the referrals from Facebook have been strongest, really quite a bit stronger on Tuesdays than by any other day. So what we'll need to do is look and see what the any ads that were spent on Facebook are to get an idea of if that spend was influencing it. And again, I don't have the answers because I don't have that data. Moving on to the next one here. So here we go into referral traffic. So we're going to start digging in. Again, we're looking at the timeline of the last 28 days. We're looking at all the users. And we're only looking at the referral traffic. So the referral traffic is the people that are sending us traffic our way. So Facebook.com or m.facebook.com had 345. Facebook.com had 71. L.facebook.com had 59. And I don't personally know what the difference between those are. There's a number of different Facebook.com that we would have to look at. But those are the referrals that are coming in strongest. So when we look at that, the goal, the conversion rate of people who are coming in from Facebook.com, that is about 36%. That's actually not bad for a conversion rate. In this case, there were 150. We're going to say that means there were 154 tickets sold. We don't know that they sold the tickets, but they went to the ticket site to see about buying it. And so there's the estimated value of what that came in. Needs to be added to the different, so there's different Facebook referral channels that are coming in here, or referral sources. So one might be events, one might be ads, one might be organic. I'm not sure exactly what those are. That's something that we would need to investigate. Now, another thing that we see is that the business, the Menominee Chamber is sending some traffic their way. And that also is converting. At about half of the traffic is going to that site. Done history, same thing. Not a lot of traffic, but the traffic that's coming is pretty high quality traffic with about 61% that are converting by clicking and going to that. There's a show coming up soon, a paranormal show that's coming up. They're sending traffic. We'll see traffic from them all over the reports at this point in time. And then it starts wandering in. Here's another one, volume1.org. That would be the Volume 1 digital presence. It doesn't count the print presence, which Volume 1 is a print magazine. It's also got an online version, and it is an area where there is some spend. And that's one of the things that we were trying to look at is, what is the value of the spend with Volume 1? And then so you look around and there's just it comes down to there aren't very many clicks coming from these sites, but in the ones that are doing the most referrals, looks like Facebook is by far out in the front on that. Network referrals, so we're doing sessions versus social referral. So this is looking at all the sessions, and this is looking at the social referral. Now, this is comparing two different metrics in the same graph. What we're trying to do with this graph is to see if there's an increase in social on particular days, and if that corresponds to the changes that are happening in the overall traffic. And what we see is that there's a really strong correlation between when the social traffic goes up and the overall traffic. So without the social traffic, this is pretty steady. When you add the social referral, that's where you're getting these peaks and valleys. So that starts to indicate that there is some, I don't know if significant is the right word, but there's impact from the social referral on the overall traffic to the website. Now, again, we're looking at the landing pages here. So what we want to see is where are they coming in? And the reason I wanted to see this is to see where are they landing when they're coming here. Again, this is the social versus sessions, similar kind of data, but now what it's bringing in is the URL. So the URL that the most are coming to is just mabeltainter.org. So that tells you that it's sort of a general coming to the Mabel website, whereas this one here is specifically the link that they're sending them to is this Paranormicon event that's coming up in September, and you'll notice that that's showing up in multiple locations. And so that is a way to look at the traffic. And if you look at the total traffic between those areas and the Mabel Tainter, between the event itself and the vendor application, we've got more traffic for the Paranormicon coming in from social media during that time frame than anywhere else. Now, when we look at the total number of sessions, after that it drops down to 3. So these are fairly insignificant in the greater scheme of things as far as what kind of influence do they have. Okay, so now we're moving to conversions. Conversions is when we accomplish the goal. And as I mentioned earlier, the goal on this was to go to the link, the Ovation Ticks, where they sell their tickets. And we set that up at the goal again on September 3rd. So we only have partial data, but what we're looking at here is which social networks are contributing to those conversions, and we see Facebook is really the only player in there. Now this is actually one of my favorite graphs because let me see if I can shrink the size of this down a little bit. This is a behavior flow diagram, and to me, I get a lot of insight out of this particular type of flow because this happens to be social users flow. So since we're looking at social media and what does the influence of the spend there do, what this allows us to do is look by social media at how many people are coming in, but we also look at the flow of that traffic. Once they come in, where are they going to? So they're coming here. That indicates that it's the root page, so just mabeltainter.org. From there, they're going to Mabel or the Paranormicon events. Those are the main things. Again, Paranormicon and then others. And so you see a lot of that traffic, but you also see a lot of drop off here. This red means that they've left the site. This is where it's important to have that conversion goal where you can see that a lot of these people, about half of those people that are leaving are going to the tickets. So whereas it looks really bad here, what that's actually shown is about half of those people are actually leaving the site. They came to the homepage, they're leaving to go get tickets. Again, we could compare the data with the Paranormicon. If we go to the actual report, you can start digging into these. We're not going to do that today because this video will get too long. And again, that's a rabbit hole, but you'll see that there are a lot of people leaving the Paranormicon. Some of them are leaving for good. Some of them are going to get tickets. So that's a fun one to look at. You can look at the paths into, through, and out of specific pages or areas in there. And then we will look at the social there. All right, so now we're back into all users. And just for kicks, I wanted to look and see if there were any patterns from the January to September that look at the day of the month to see if there were any kind of patterns in there that we weren't able to see in any other way. So I added the day of the month as a second variable in there. And what we see is if we go from the top to the bottom, so the 10th day of the month has 400 and some. If we go to the bottom, 193. So there is some, actually I should stay within the same type of search. So between the 10th of 424 and the last Google Organic, 291, we could go in and assess these, but you'll notice that the later in the month, the 28, 29, 23, 27, 24, or 30 are fairly low. If you go to the Google Organic, it's sort of the second week that, and the first week's, first and second week. So we're doing better at the beginning of the month than we are at the end of the month for doing this. Now that becomes actionable data where we can start timing our social media spends to emphasize those days when more people are coming. Now that happens to be Google search. I would want to look at, and I don't have it in here because I didn't do enough records to see the social media, but I'd want to look at this same report for the social media to see if the social media has an impact on the day of the month, or based upon the day of the month. But our organic search and our direct are showing that the first half of the month does better than the second half of the month, generally speaking. Okay, so now we're going to do, here's the full year again. And again, we're looking at the day of the week here. What is the source and what day of the week to see if it has any influence. And strongly, the most traffic is coming in the middle of the week. And Facebook doesn't have that clear of a picture. So what I want to do here now, first I want to see, okay, so here I went into a behavior flow for the full year. And the previous one was for the last 28 days. So the landing page is the home page. 16,000 people, about half of them, as we saw, about half of that group that left were going to get tickets. And then you can start seeing where over time the traffic goes. So right now we're getting a lot more traffic under Paranormicon, but when we look at the full year, events is the area that's getting the most traffic. And again, here's another starting page, theater events, Paranormicon, events, Paranormicon, etc. So that just sort of holds out the same kind of thing. Again, this allows you to watch how people move through your site. So after they come to theater events, they don't spend a lot of time in there, but when they come out of here, they're more likely to visit more places on the site when they come into that home page. So now, one more time, we're going to be looking at goal completions here. So again, September 3rd is the day when we set up the goals. And what we just want to look at is the overview of the users. So from root, or the home page, we get a lot of traffic to that, straight to that, from there to the goal. So there's a link on the home page in this case that goes to get tickets. There's a link from each of these pages, and the way that this goal is set up is that when you click on that link, whatever page you're on, this is where that data is coming from. So it's not just they clicked on this link, but they clicked on this link at this page. And again, back to the flow, I wanted to look at the last 4 weeks and what was going on with the behavior flow from the source through the tickets, just to give a relative idea. And you'll notice that from the tickets, everybody goes off. Everybody disappears from there. Have to dig into this one a little bit more to really understand what it's saying. So then the next thing that I wanted to look at is how much time. So this is actually looking at a conversion, but looking at multiple places where they may have contributed to it. So what we're looking at is the time lag in days from when they first showed up on our site till they went through their conversion. And what you'll see is that the overwhelming majority of those people came in and made their click to purchase tickets on the same day, 85.57. So the drop off from there is huge. So most of the people that are clicking on the tickets link are coming in and buying tickets that day. They're not coming back later and buying it. So that would suggest that there's needs to be a significant call to action so that they will buy those tickets on the first day. And that's the last of the reports that I looked at for this. We could dig into this and literally spend hours and hours trying to dissect this and micro-dissect this, but what we needed to do is establish a pattern of how is the site being used, where are the users coming from, and are they clicking on that tickets link, and from where. So this gives us a baseline to work from, and really what it does is set us up to ask a whole bunch more questions so that we can start trying to see the answers to those. That's all that I have for now. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.